Stop! Don't scroll! Look at the glass of water sitting on your desk or the bottle in your hand. Really look at it. You think that clear liquid is a basic human right? You think it's a guarantee? You are wrong. That liquid is a geological anomaly. We live on a blue marble where 97% of the water will kill you if you drink it, and 2% is frozen solid. You are betting your life on the remaining 1%. And that 1% is evaporating. Today, we aren't talking about storing a few cases of bottled water in the garage. We are simulating the timeline of total hydrological collapse. From the moment the city pressure drops, to the week the grocery shelves go dry, to the month the sewers back up. This is the reality of a world without water. If you want to survive the drought that doesn't end, pay attention. I'm Tom, and this is Survival Curriculum. We don't do prepper porn here. We do disaster anatomy. We dissect the threat so you can survive the surgery. Today's patient is the global water supply, and the prognosis is terminal. Most people think a water crisis looks like a desert. It doesn't. It looks like your suburban neighborhood smelling of sewage with a riot at the local Walmart over the last pallet of Gatorade. Before we start the simulation, make sure you are locked in for the next briefing. Secure your spot in this community by hitting that subscribe button. The algorithm buries survival content. Don't let it bury you. Let's begin the simulation. Day 0, 700 hours. You wake up for work. Routine is your enemy here because it blinds you. You walk to the bathroom sink, toothbrush in hand, and you flip the lever. Normally, you expect a rush of cold, pressurized municipal water. Instead, you hear a sound that will haunt you for the rest of your life. A hollow, violent hiss. Then, a sputtering cough of brown sludge. Then, silence. You jiggle the handle. Nothing. You check the shower. Nothing. You think it's a broken main down the street. You check your phone. No alerts from the city. You check the neighbourhood Facebook group. Everyone is asking the same question. Is your water off? This isn't a broken pipe. This is the aquifer hitting dead volume. The pumps are sucking air. The reservoir levels have dropped below the intake pipes. In a single moment, the miles of plumbing under your city have transformed from a life support system into a useless, rusting labyrinth. Here is how 90% of the population dies in this timeline. They wait. They treat the silence in the pipes like a power outage. They assume they will fix it. They assume a water truck is coming. They go to work without showering, feeling sticky and annoyed, but not afraid. By noon, the office bathrooms are locked because the toilets won't flush. By 5 p.m., people stop at the convenience store on the way home. They don't buy 5-gallon jugs. They buy a 6-pack of sparkling water and a soda, thinking the tap will be back on by morning. This is the normalization bias. They cannot comprehend that the infrastructure has permanently failed. They drink beer or sugary drinks, which act as diuretics, accelerating their dehydration. They cook pasta, wasting precious liters on boiling water they pour down the drain. They are burning their internal reserves because they believe the system is immortal. It isn't. Let's talk about the math of survival when the tap reads 0. You know the rule of threes. 3 days without water and you're dead. But that's a clean death. The reality is messier. You lose about 2 to 3 litres of water a day just by breathing and existing. In a high-stress scenario, your cortisol spikes, you sweat, and your metabolism races. You need a gallon per person per day minimum. And that is just for hydration. That doesn't account for hygiene. If you have a family of 4, you need 28 gallons just to survive a week. Do you have 28 gallons stored? Probably not. You have a case of 16-ounce bottles from Costco. That's 2.5 gallons. That's not a stockpile, that's a single day for 2 people. When the pipes dry up, your water heater holds maybe 40 gallons. That is your emergency reserve. You need to know how to isolate it, drain it, and filter it immediately before the sediment at the bottom poisons the well. This is the first logistical hurdle, shifting your mindset from usage to rationing. Here is the threat specific to a pressure loss event that nobody talks about. Backflow. The city water system relies on positive pressure to keep bad things out. When the pumps stop and the pressure drops to 0, the physics invert. A vacuum is created. The pipes start sucking instead of pushing. Groundwater, pesticides from your neighbour's lawn, and sewage from leaking septic lines adjacent to the water mains get pulled into the drinking water pipes. So, imagine 3 days later, the city manages to turn the pumps on for an hour. The water comes back. You run to the sink, desperate, and fill a glass. You drink it. You just ingested a concentrated slurry of every toxin in your zip code. The twist of a water crisis isn't thirst. It's the fact that the first water to return to the pipes is a biological weapon. You never, ever drink from the tap immediately after a restore event. You treat it like swamp water. Week 2. The taps are still dry. Now the hunger sets in. You walk into the supermarket. The air conditioning is off to save power for the grid, so the store smells like rotting produce and desperate bodies. You head to the produce section. It's gone. The misting machines that used to keep the vegetables crisp are silent. The lettuce has turned to black slime. The apples are shriveled. You go to the meat aisle. Empty. Why? Because it takes 1,800 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef. When the regional aquifers failed, the livestock were culled or died of thirst weeks ago. The supply chain has shattered. You see a fight breaking out in aisle 4 over a can of peaches. It's not about the fruit, it's about the liquid inside the can. People are realising that food is just water in solid form. The realisation hits you. You aren't shopping for calories anymore. You are hunting for hydration. The masses make a critical error here. They raid the pantry. They eat what they have. Potato chips, crackers, jerky, instant noodles. This is the sodium trap. In a normal world, salt is fine because you wash it down. In a water zero world, salt is poison. Digestion requires water. Processing sodium requires water. Every bag of chips you eat pulls fluid from your cells into your gut to digest it, accelerating dehydration. I've seen simulation data where people starve to death with full stomachs because they ate dry, salty survival food without the water to process it. They succumb to hypernatremia, salt poisoning. They get confused, lethargic, and eventually their kidneys shut down. They are eating themselves to death, one cracker at a time. Survival in this phase is about hydration efficiency. You need to switch your diet immediately to low protein, low sodium, high moisture foods, if you can find them. If you are relying on your stockpile, you should be eating canned fruits in light syrup, canned vegetables with the water saved, and honey. Avoid high protein intake like massive amounts of beef jerky. Metabolizing protein creates nitrogenous waste that requires significant water to flush out via urine. If you don't have water, you don't eat protein. Period. This is where your garden strategy changes too. Forget tomatoes. They are thirsty. In a water crisis, you should have been growing drought crops like tepary beans, okra, or prickly pear cactus. But let's be real, you didn't plant those. So now you are rationing. You are drinking the liquid from the canned peas. It tastes vile, but it's sterile fluid. You are surviving on the hidden water locked inside your non-perishables. Here is the twist that catches the preppers who actually did plant a garden. In a world where everything is brown, dying and dusty, green is a beacon. If you have a lush, watered vegetable garden in your backyard, while the rest of the neighbourhood is a dust bowl, you have painted a target on your back. You aren't just signalling you have food, you are signalling you have water. In the story of the alien invasion, we worry about thermal signatures. In the story of the water crisis, we worry about chlorophyll signatures. Desperate neighbours will smell the wet earth. They will see the green leaves over the fence. They won't ask for a tomato. They will jump the fence to steal your rain barrels. They will dig up your irrigation lines. Your survival garden becomes a liability unless you learn camouflage gardening, hiding your crops amidst the weeds, using grey water underground so the surface looks dry. If you look prosperous, you look like prey. We've covered thirst. We've covered hunger. But neither of those will kill you as fast as the third horseman of this apocalypse: disease. When the water stops, the flushing stops. And when the flushing stops, civilization rewinds 500 years in about 5 days. This is the part of the simulation that smells. The part nobody puts in the Hollywood movie. Let's talk about the toilets. Week 3. The silence of the pipes is replaced by the buzz of flies. Millions of them. You walk down your suburban street. It looks the same. Manicured lawns turning yellow, cars and driveways. But the stench is physical. It hits you like a wall. A sweet, rotting, fecal decay. The sewage treatment plants failed on day 4. The lift stations that pump waste uphill stopped working. Now, the sewers are backing up into basements. People, desperate and uneducated on sanitation, are still using their toilets. They dry flush, just piling waste upon waste in the bowl, or dumping it in the backyard. The rain comes, briefly, and washes that backyard filth into the streets. You see a child playing in a puddle at the end of the cul-de-sac. That isn't mud. That is a biohazard. Cholera, dysentery, typhoid, names from your history textbook, are now your neighbors. The water crisis has mutated into a sanitation crisis. The fatal mistake people make here is the hygiene sacrifice. They rationalize, I need to save water for drinking, so I won't wash my hands. This is suicide. In a low-water environment, your immune system is stressed. You are malnourished. Your mucous membranes are dry. You are more susceptible to infection than ever. Yet, you are touching surfaces covered in fecal dust. People stop washing their dishes. They just wipe them with a dirty rag. They stop washing their bodies. Skin infections run rampant. A simple scratch becomes gangrenous. By trying to save a pint of water, they contract a diarrheal disease that flushes gallons of fluids out of their body in hours. It is a cruel irony. By refusing to spend water on hygiene, they lose all their water to sickness. They die of dehydration on the toilet, not from lack of a drink. You need to implement the twin bucket system immediately. You seal off your porcelain toilet. Duct tape the lid shut. It is a tomb, not a tool. You get 2 5-gallon buckets. Bucket 1 is for urine. Urine is sterile when it leaves the body and is mostly nitrogen. You can dilute this and use it on non-food plants or dump it far from the house. Bucket 2 is for solids. You line it with heavy-duty bags. After each use, you cover the waste with carbon material, sawdust, peat moss, or shredded paper. This absorbs the moisture and the smell. This is critical. Dry waste doesn't smell. Wet waste rots. You never mix urine and feces. That mix creates the sewage sludge that breeds pathogens. When the bag is full, you bury it deep, far from any water source, or you store it in a sealed container if you are in a city. For hand washing, you build a tippy tap, a jug suspended on a string that releases a tiny stream. You can wash your hands effectively with 3 tablespoons of water. Hygiene is non-negotiable. The twist in a drought isn't just that the water goes away, it's what comes looking for the water that remains. Rats, cockroaches, and raccoons are just as thirsty as you are. As the sewers dry up and the rivers recede, the vermin migrate. They migrate into your home. They can smell the condensation on your stored water barrels. They can smell the moisture in your twin bucket system. You are now fighting a war against vectors. If a rat chews through your plastic water storage, you lose the water. But worse, the remaining water is now laced with leptospirosis. In a zombie movie, you board up the windows to keep the monsters out. In a water crisis, you have to cork every crack, seal every drain, and put steel wool in every weep hole to keep the thirsty vectors from turning your sanctuary into a plague house. You aren't just a survivalist anymore, you're an exterminator. Month 2. You have survived the thirst, the hunger, and the sickness. But now you cannot stay. The region is functionally dead. You pack the car. You look at the map. You are heading north, towards the Great Lakes or the mountains, where rumours say the water still flows. You hit the highway. It's jammed, a river of steel that isn't moving. But up ahead you see a blockade. Not the military, just men in trucks with rifles. A hand-painted sign reads, "Water Resource Zone, locals only." You realise the terrifying truth. State lines don't matter anymore. Watershed boundaries matter. You are a water refugee. To them, you aren't a fellow citizen. You are another mouth to feed, another sponge to soak up their dwindling aquifer. They wave a shotgun at your car. They aren't checking for passports. They are checking your trunk for jugs. If you have water, they take it. If you don't, they turn you back to the dust. The failed reaction here is appeal to humanity. People believe that in a crisis we will all pull together. They approach these checkpoints thinking they can reason with the guards. "I have children," they say. "We just need to pass through." They don't understand the shift in the social contract. When resources are abundant, we are individuals. When resources are scarce, we revert to tribalism. The tribe is defined by who has access to the well. By appealing to their humanity, you are projecting a morality that evaporated with the water. The people who die in this phase are the ones who wait for permission, or who trust the FEMA camps set up in dry stadiums where dysentery spreads faster than water is distributed. They surrender their autonomy for a plastic bottle of water, and they never leave. If you must move, you never move along the main arteries. The highways are death traps. You move along the blue lines, the topographical maps that show where water used to be. You follow the dry creek beds, but you stay in the tree line. Why? Because the water table is highest there. You need a portable filtration kit that is redundant, not just a life straw, those clog in silty mud. You need a pre-filter, a millbank bag or a bandana, to remove the muck. Then a ceramic filter for bacteria, and finally chemical treatment, chlorine dioxide, for viruses. You carry a Silcock key, a 4-way wrench that opens commercial water spigots on the sides of abandoned office buildings. You'd be amazed how much water is trapped in the commercial plumbing of a dead city. You move at night to reduce sweat loss. You sleep during the heat of the day. You become nocturnal. You are not a refugee. You are a ghost passing through the landscape. Here is the final twist of the migration phase. You reach the promised land, the place on the map with the river. But the river is dry there too. Why? Because the upstream region built a dam. Or, closer to our current reality, the upstream nation seeded the clouds. We are entering an era of weather warfare. Countries and states are using silver iodide to force rain to fall on their territory, stealing the moisture from the air before it reaches you. You look up at the clouds, hoping for rain, but the clouds are empty because they were milked dry 300 miles west. The water cycle isn't natural anymore, it's political. You can travel 1,000 miles looking for water, only to find that the sky itself has been privatized. This is the ultimate checkmate. You cannot scavenge what has been stolen from the atmosphere. We have walked through the collapse. The tap, the store, the toilet, the road. But the scariest part of a world without water isn't the violence, it's the silence. It's the silent catastrophe of ecosystem failure. When the water goes, the soil dies. It turns to dust. The trees that held the earth together die. The dust storms begin, massive haboobs that swallow cities, stripping the paint off cars and filling your lungs with silica and fungal spores. You aren't just thirsty, you are choking on the corpse of the landscape. Technology cannot fix dead soil. Desalination takes massive amounts of energy. Energy we often generate using water for cooling. It is a feedback loop. The drier it gets, the harder it is to make power. The harder it is to pump water. The system eats its own tail. So, where does that leave you? It leaves you with a choice. You can wait for the blue liquid to stop flowing, or you can build your lifeboat now. You can harden your household. You can diversify your sources. You can learn to flush with grey water and garden with fog. But understand this, water is just the first domino. When the water systems strain, the power grid is next. Hydroelectric dams fail. Nuclear plants can't cool their cores. The blackout follows the drought as surely as thunder follows lightning. If you think a world without water is hell, wait until you see a world without water or electricity. That is the scenario we are simulating in the next briefing. It's called the dark thirst. And if you aren't prepared for the lights to go out while you're thirsty, you're only half ready. Don't be the casualty who turned the tap and heard a hiss. Be the one who was already filtering the rain. You survived the simulation. Now survive the reality. Equip yourself at the official supply depot. Because if the world is going to end, you might as well look prepared.